Good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday. It is Saturday, March 26th. This is day 5 of Career Day, but this is going to be incredible. I'm going to bring a dynamic young lady before you. I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly. If I'm not, she'll correct me when she gets on screen. Nicole Horsford Holly. She has real world experience. She's worked for groups such as Armani Exchange, Ralph Lauren, and others. And without further ado, I am going to bring Nicole forward. Good morning.
Good morning.
Close to saying your name correctly.
You did very well. It is a lot of name. It is Nicole Horsford Holly. it is a full name. I like to say I was born a Horsford and then I married a Holly. So
all right.
got a lot of names to go with it. But no, thank you so much for the warm introduction. You are just such a compelling and amazing and dynamic person. I'm so thankful to be connected to you and to help with the Black fashion world. So I think it's amazing. And thank you for having me.
I'm glad you are here. First of all, let me tell everybody, it's all, it takes a village. And when you have somebody who literally is on vacation right now and they're willing to come on screen to empower you, that says a lot about the fact that they want you to succeed. All right. And that is Nicole. So thank you for that. What we're going to do today is Nicole is going to give us a deep dive into salary. And trust me, it is a deep dive. It's a good one. I mean, really. After that, I'm going to give you, a career planning session. And with that career planning is definitely the salary, so you can know how to negotiate and so forth. Anybody viewing, well, all of you are viewing on the website, you can click into that bottom area that says YouTube chat, and you can go over to YouTube if you choose to do so. You don't have to do so, but you can do that, and that way you can communicate with us and ask any questions, okay? I do want to tell everybody that is joining, I'm very thankful that Lena, with Christian Dior. We were going to talk about international fashion, and she wasn't able to join us yesterday because of an emergency. She's okay. She reached out to me this morning. She's like, yes, send me a link. So at 1:00, we will be hosting that session. I've sent everybody that has purchased that session another link so we can have that conversation. So I know based upon what she experienced yesterday and the fact that she's still coming forth, that's going to be a powerful segment. So anybody who wants to purchase access can still do so. Also, replays are still on sale today for $10 for the 20. You get access to 2021. Well, actually, you get 2021 in the tickets, but with the replay, you get 2021 as well. So you get a stagnant amount of time and 2022. Tomorrow, the rate will go up to, I changed it. It's going to go up to $17.99. But for the price of a book, being able to access this information for the next 30 days is incredible. Without that said, I'm going to let Nicole go forward and talk to you about salary. I'm excited.
It's going to be great. So thank you for, again, the warm introduction. And like you were saying, a lot of this is going to be a conversation of things that I wish either my parents, my elders, or others had really imparted to me. Elements of that had, but not in such a robust way, I find. And I think a lot of the conversations we're having nowadays is really kind of circling more about things we didn't know and just sharing that information. So one thing that was imparted to me by quite a few of my friends as I was going through the industry was really like, listen, let's talk more about money. Because I think the more we talk about money and really have true insight to what you should be making, what the different career stages are, and just overall planning, it'll help. Yeah. So feel free to drop your questions into the chat. I'll answer them as we go along. And really, this is a nice overview, and there's some meat in the presentation itself that you can really take away and just write down whatever you need to, because I think it'll help to kind of put things in perspective for certain aspects of the career, like your career path. And for me, this is just, I want to kind of asterisk this as saying, this is specific to my knowledge of fashion and what I experienced in the fashion world. So like Carla said, I have worked, I'm a product development and production lead right now at PCHI, which is Party City. So any of those costumes your kids wore last year, I worked on them. Or adults, yeah, I also work on men's and women's. And what that means is that I work and am responsible for the development and working with design to essentially negotiate with the factories, source the fabric, source the materials with the factories, and bring those costumes to life. So this is the third iteration of a development and production life that I've lived in, because before that I worked specifically on wovens and denim, and that's where I actually started my career at Gap Inc. and then transitioned to Calvin Klein Jeans, Polo Ralph Lauren, Armani Exchange, and then went on to work for smaller niche brands, helping them to launch and develop their denim lines. And then thereafter, now I transitioned to costumes because, just gotta keep it fresh and start figuring out new things for yourself as you start aging into the industry. I'm about 18 years in, so just under 2 decades, which is still mind-blowing to me that I've been able to do what I love and what I truly enjoy for almost 2 decades. And it's afforded me the ability to travel the world, kind of see everything that you could see with regards to factories, development, sourcing, fabric shows, trade shows, all those kind of fun perks that come with the job. And I've had to travel domestic US, in Europe, Asia, Africa, and also South America. So again, just afforded me an amazing amount of opportunity to really see things out there that I would not have been able to see if I did not go into this industry. So looking at the next slide, the overview itself is, and let me share, technical difficulty. Let me.
If not, I can pull it up too.
Yep, let me see. Oh, here we go.
This is our tech world now.
Exactly. This is me showing that's why I do development and production and not. All right, so entire screen. That was the trick before I figured it out. Okay. Okay. Can everybody see that?
I can see it, yes.
Okay, perfect. So career path and salary facts will focus on a transparent and robust overview and conversation about professional career stages, salary, benefits package, and what happens after the interview process concludes and you accept or decline a position. And again, these are the things that I wish I had known a little more in depth when I started my career. And it's also for those individuals who are looking to transition in their career. So you can think is kind of a nice conversation to be had for either the beginning stage, the middle stage, a transition, or if you're just looking into going to another field, because I had to do that also. So that being said, when you look at your career path, there are multiple stages that we've been privy to that people have heard about, but specifically in fashion, I think one stage that a lot of people don't touch on is number 1, the co-op or management training program. That's actually what I started in at Gap Inc. It was called an RMP program, which was retail management program. And what it focused on was a 9-month co-op where you went to Gap Corporate, you went through an extensive interview process, you went to Gap Corporate, and then you worked in 3 different realms. So I worked in planning, merchandising, and production. And what they did was allow you to see real world and real life examples of things you would do every day. So you had responsibilities that allowed you to kind of understand, oh, this is what, if I took on this position, I would be responsible for every day. And you also had projects to reinforce you were understanding what you were working on. So what I don't think we all are insight or have insight to or kind of understand is these training programs are wonderful because they are a genuine benchmark and starting point for the development of your career. And it also gives you exposure to individuals who you normally wouldn't cross paths with. For instance, my mentor during my time as an RMP for Gap Inc. was the director of production for Wovens. So it was literally me getting insight and hearing the real world and real life troubles of daily kind of working troubles, things of that nature, like how she worked through a presentation, how she had to figure out how to juggle her real life plus work life, how she had to figure out how to juggle, different presentations that were coming up and travel, things of that nature, because I had a mentor from the start. So if you are open to or want to transition into another career, sometimes it is great to go through a training program because what it allows you for is to have insight into the industry at a different level and at a true training level where you get to learn your craft. Thereafter, you transition, or if you start at an entry-level position or a coordinator position, that's typical the start and baseline of the industry. In our industry, because it is a creative space, oftentimes bigger box brands and smaller brands have different salaries for each one. So typically you can think at an entry level, you're kind of looking at the $35,000 to $41,000 range, which is difficult to live on. And it's being realistic in this day and age between inflation and the cost of living. And this is also why the kind of side hustle lifestyle has kind of come about, where you can work your entry level position and then also do things on the side, because it will allow you to afford a more comfortable lifestyle, but then also just be able to kind of keep the wheels going and keep it fresh and understand, like, I'm starting out with a lot of grunt work per se, but I'm learning, again, my craft, and I'm going to work my way up and be able to kind of move forward. So that's kind of the thought process of that entry-level position in terms of cost and, in terms of retail. Oh my gosh, using all the wrong words, in terms of salary to be made. Thereafter, you would transition to assistant level, which is usually a 5 to 10K bump up. Then you would transition to associate level, which you're looking there at more being in the $55,000 range. And this is also New York salary ranges. Cost of living and also regionality will play into your salary. And on the next slide, we'll look at a couple of websites that can help you figure out and learn more about, specific to your region or where you find your position, what your salary would be. The associate level comes, of course, with more responsibilities, and it's also going to be that dynamic time where it's you really transitioning into, is this the field and the field I want to remain in? Maybe I transition into another realm within the same industry. And this is also where, when we talk about later on, negotiating power, where you can really start negotiating for certain aspects of your salary and benefits package. Thereafter, at a manager level, you're typically looking at, again, based on New York salaries, up to about $70,000 to $75,000, depending on what size and scale of company you're working for. In fashion nowadays, the manager role is super dynamic, and it also takes on a lot more responsibility than it used to, because people are often doing more with fewer individuals. So that being said, the manager position is one that's super dynamic, and it's also one that allows people to really get more exposure and more face time with the kind of higher ups and people of different levels, because you're now responsible for a lot more. And you oftentimes have your own department you're running, or you are reporting into a senior manager or even a director oftentimes. So that manager position is really kind of the mid-level and that integral time of your career, where you're going to really make or break what's going to happen next for you in the next 5 years or so. Then you transition down to senior manager. Then you can hit a lead position, which is where I am right now. I was formerly a director and then moved on to lead, and oftentimes those are interchangeable, dependent on the industry and or the brand that you're working for. Thereafter is a senior director, and that salary range, well, actually director range, let's talk about money. This is where you should start cracking into six figures definitively. You should be comfortably in the six-figure realm, and depending on the size and scale of that brand, you should be looking upwards of $120,000 to $175,000 at a director level. As a lead right now, I am at the 125 to 135 level, and I'm sharing this with you because I want people to understand, for my years of experience, that's actually low. And again, it's because steps taken and not having insight in terms of where I should be money-wise. But I have counterparts who are leads that are making upwards of $175,000 and more of that director money. So I think this is where it's just really having that honest conversation and kind of asking counterparts, asking friends that you trust and that you feel comfortable to talk about money with, hey, where are you salary-wise? And once I started having those real salary conversations with friends and colleagues, I learned that I was grossly underpaid my first 5 years of working in the industry. And it wasn't until I started having those real life conversations and having those kind of bigger conversations around the manager and senior manager time in my career that I learned, like, oh, okay, I need to get this bumped up and I need to negotiate better. So we're going to talk through that in our next slide. Thereafter, senior director level, you're comfortably in the six figures here. In New York, you're definitely at the 200 plus realm. In fashion, for product development and production. For design, it might be a little bit lower, but it should still be over the $150,000 mark. Then we start walking into VP level and E-suite and the executive vice president and C-suite levels. And those are all your executives. Those are your strategic thinkers, separate from your strategic everyday life. These are the strategic business planners who are kind of working to guide and direct the pathway of the business itself. And they're working from your big ideas within your creative space to how can we transition and have that conversation be a bigger overarching business plan and business strategy. So that is why those individuals typically are at the 300K plus level, specifically in fashion, especially out of New York, and even a little bit more when you're looking at LA, or Los Angeles, as another region that has a major fashion market in it. So I'm going to pop out for a second and just see if anybody has any questions so far.
There's a little bit of a delay, so it may take a few seconds. So okay, go ahead and keep going. And as the questions come in, then we can fill them, because I know there's a little bit of a delay.
Oh, okay, great. So I will keep going. Make sure And of course, nothing is off the table. If anyone has any questions that they have, just feel free to ask. I am an open book within reason. Carla, is that showing again correctly?
Yes, you're good.
Wonderful. All right, so let's talk about salary ranges and negotiations. So we went through the different career stages that we had kind of talked through and seen the overarching kind of path that one can take. That being said, these are some helpful tools that I find have allowed me to kind of really understand and get a handle on, separate from conversations with colleagues and friends, what range of salary I should be in at a certain point. So if we click on Nuovo.com, it's a great website that really allows you to kind of figure out your job search. And also it gives you real life examples of how much you should be making. So you can search your salary up here. And again, this is not an ad. I am not affiliated with them in any way, but I do find that they're a great resource. So you can type in your job title. So we can do design assistant. And then you can enter your location, New York, New York, and it'll find the salary for you. So this is just a great tool for you walking in and kind of understanding, hey, how much is a design assistant in New York making nowadays? So like I spoke to before, entry level, it was kind of 35 to 41. So design assistant is just above that entry level step. So that's why you're looking at $39,035. And that's based off of 236 different salaries. So that's the other cool thing. They take an aggregate sample of salaries that they have and kind of do a healthy average. So there are design assistants who are making $31,200, and then there are design assistants who are making $52,000. If you find that position, you hold on to that position for a little bit. And then what they also do is show you the averages by different states for other states that have these design assistant positions and how much they're making. So you see, as you leave out of New York, sometimes there are greater opportunities elsewhere. And that's something that we're going to also talk about a little bit later on in terms of where else are these kind of opportunities and where do they arise. So going back, so I love Nuovo. It'll be on there for you. What they also do, which is super helpful, and I'll show you one other thing that I love from this website, is honestly, they'll break down from you your salary, like a tax calculator. So if I take that 39,000, I think it was like 3121, and I want to calculate like, hey, how much money is my take home, so that I can know for my monthly budget, which is definitely a conversation that you need to have with yourself. How much money am I taking home per month? You can see here, okay, of that 31,000, it's a 20% tax bracket. I get to take home 79% of my pay. That's roughly $31,000. Tax-wise, I'm looking about paying Uncle Sam $7,800. And then it shows you your taxburg and your total taxes paid. And then that, you can break it down even further to see like per month, how much are you taking home? So you can also better understand, okay, I'm taking home $3,200 a month. Bi-weekly, that is $1,500 a paycheck. So it gives you a nice, $11.99 per paycheck, your net. You always have to look at your net. So that gives you a great overview, again, to better understanding how much money you're going to take home before you even accept a position. So let's go back to
that. Is so powerful.
Yeah, and it's something that I think I always knew about. I used to make fun of like Uncle Sam and taxes and FICA and who is this and who's taking money out of my check. But once you really see the breakdown and you can understand better, like every 2 weeks, I know I'm going to get this much money. It really helps you to kind of budget and just make more sense and stretch your dollars more. So, and I think that's something in our community that we have so much strength in our dollar. And it's us really kind of understanding better, like, no, I can do so much more with the money I have if I know how much money I'm really going to have and really take home, and also be able to better negotiate. So that's something for me where I started using Novo when I started jumping around to different positions to better understand, okay, well, if I take this, okay, that's my new take home. Oh, that means, okay, these were my expenses before. These are my expenses now. Let me see how much I could really be making and just making more sense of that. So when it comes to benefits packages, this is where you want to kind of have a handle and make sure it's written down. And even when you're having your initial interview conversation, find out what are the options for medical, dental, vision, PTO. Is there a 401k or 401k match? Are there gym benefits? What is your PTO is paid time off, which we all know. Are there any vacation benefits or added benefits? Like a couple of my companies that I worked at before, they had benefits to Broadway.com, they had benefits to certain travel sites, things of that nature. Like, what are you going to do to enrich my overall benefits package? And I think a lot of companies nowadays are understanding that people don't only want a salary, they also want to understand that their time off, and especially in our new world of either hybrid working and things of that nature, are really being taken seriously. So it's also finding out, hey, what is the hybrid nature or opportunity for this position? Is there a hybrid nature? Can I work both from home and at work and at the office? Is it solely being in the office? And having these conversations up front with individuals. So you always want to make sure you are privy to and understand your benefits package, and that's fully written out for you. And this is when you can start needling and really asking those questions within the interview process and writing down, these are things that are important to me. Let me understand what you offer so I can make it informed and educated decision. So the fun negotiation time. You should always negotiate. Contrary to popular belief, it does not make you look like a nag. It does not make you look like a difficult candidate. It makes you look like someone who understands their worth and also understands their potential and understands what they're bringing to the table. You are worthy. And this is not only me saying like, oh, get more money, get all that bag, no, this is not exclusively you just going in for more money. This is you understanding how and when to negotiate, because now you have those other tools that are going to let you know, for this type of position, I should be making this money. If they are already under offering if your offer is already under the kind of benchmark or the average that you're seeing, you should definitely at least bring it up to that, or know that you should go a little bit above so you have wiggled room to negotiate down. Negotiations come into play oftentimes once the offer has been presented. That's at entry level. Later on in your career, once you're kind of mid-tier and a little bit higher up, this is where you're kind of in the director level or the senior director or VP level, you are starting to negotiate even before that, because the conversations that are being had and are being brought to the table are more so about complete and total lifestyle separate from salary. So there are different times to negotiate, and there's also different ways to negotiate. You want to be as direct as possible, and of course being pragmatic and also diplomatic, but you have to understand at one point you also have to relent a little bit and not always needle back and forth. You may not get everything that you ask for, but it is taking into account the fact of you have to ask the questions to even have them being taken into consideration. So I'm going to say that again. You have to ask the questions for them even to be considered. HR and your hiring manager are not they're not mind readers. They will not understand what's going on in your head unless you ask a question in a tactful, decisive, and also pragmatic manner. They will not know what else you would want brought to the table to sweeten the deal. And that's what this is all about. If you are the talent that they truly want, they will pay for it. And that has been proven time and time again. I have had myself and I've had a couple other friends and colleagues really have to put people's feet to the fire because we understood our worth and we knew what we should be paid for and what we should be being kind of what our packages should include, because we had those conversations with colleagues and friends and kind of better understood the fact of like, oh, wait, so you're getting A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and I'm just getting A, B, and C? Noted with thanks. And let me bring that back to the table. So the timing of negotiations is very paramount. It's great to kind of bring things up at least after the second interview had happened, so that you know you're kind of on that pathway to securing the position, because that's also when they're starting to see who is really like and weeding out and narrowing down how they want to present positions or negotiations to individuals. So those are my overview of tips in terms of how to negotiate and what to bring to the table. I think there's something to be said about also if you have a financial planner in your life, and there are now financial planners at all different stages and all different realms. Like, it is not just for big money individuals. Across the board, there are individuals out there, professionals, who will help you financially plan. That's part of the conversation you should also have when you bring things to the negotiating table, because it will help you kind of understand your true plans and goals for your money and how you can get there and what salary or what kind of range you should be in to be able to afford that. So that being said, talking about financial professionals, there's also something to be said about savings and investments. We have always been a community that saves, contrary to popular belief. That has been why we've been able to achieve what we have to date. That's also why we've been able to kind of thrive in a world that may not have been set up for us in all ways, shapes, or forms. But savings and investments have always been there. We have always been privy to them, but just now there's so many options and opportunities for us between different, if you want to go into stock options, if you want to go into bonds, if you want to go into cash savings, if you want to go into bank savings, there's so many opportunities out there. And this is also, again, why I say this is a great time to really kind of lean on a financial professional, or if you feel that you could take it on yourself, understand what does it really mean to have a 401k or a money market or different savings plans or going into the stock market, or, you know, even just doing cash savings, like good old saving stuff, you know, stuffing money in a mattress or putting it in a shoebox. There are different ways to save and there's different ways to invest. And I think it's just a matter of you finding what really works for you, because that is part of the kind of overall financial conversation that needs to be had and people need to be comfortable with. You know, you should always make time for savings and you should always make time to save. It's something I wish I had done a little bit earlier in life. You know, even if it's just putting away $20 per paycheck, there are those calculators that show you incrementally how much that money would have been now, you know, if I had really thought about 20 years ago when I first started my career versus, you know, waiting until I was making a certain amount of money to start saving. You can always save. It's just what you really want to do and how you really want to save and what your goals are in the long term. Not everybody has different goals that they want to do for themselves financially. And that being said, you just have to start writing things down with paper and pen, or kind of building on the ideas you've already had, or building on those plans that you had already kind of put out there for yourself and seeing what really can happen. Okay. And Carla, how are we doing for time? Are we in a happy place?
We are in a happy place. So you go ahead.
Okay.
And you're fine.
Okay. Just want to make sure I'm not over.
Look, this is an important conversation. You are fine. My next session just has 8 tips. Keep going.
Okay, great. So this is career planning and professional risk. I think this is something that I really started for myself being more conscientious about kind of once I got into the realm of working at Ralph Lauren and seeing like, hey, this is a brand I love and I love working for and I've learned so much here and it's so dynamic, but where do I see myself going? Because oftentimes in certain brands or working in certain companies, you can kind of get stuck and either hit a ceiling, either in a professional sense, a personal sense, what have you, or just really kind of understand the fact of this might not be perfect for me right now. It's really good and essential to my enrichment and learning, but what do I want to do next? And that's when I started that was about 5 or 6 years into my career, I started writing down these 1, 3, and 5-year plans. For me, they really helped me to have a true conversation with myself about where do I want to go, what do I want to do, and what do I want to see. Our industry is one where it has so much opportunity within it, and there's so many alternative positions within fashion itself that you are not even privy to until you start engaging and interacting with individuals and kind of learning like, oh, that's what you do? Like, I did not know the true role of a stylist until I worked at bigger brands and was like, oh my gosh, there's not just your on-set stylist, there is also your visual stylist. There is also your, pre-sample stylist. Like, we had 3 different types of stylists within our brand. And those individuals were responsible for, as you thought, the aesthetic and the overall look of how the clothes were going to be presented in advertisements on the web or different things of that nature. But that being said, I did not know that there were 3 different individuals that would be responsible for that. I would think, oh, our one stylist that does the photo shoots also works on our in-house samples. No, they have a counterpart because it's too much work for one person to do. So that being said, I think there's something really nice about knowing in fashion, there's so many little niche and novel parts of the business that you could really make a true career of. There's something to be said about really kind of planning out and learning more about like, hey, is that something I'd be interested in doing? If so, how do I get there? And it also speaks to the kind of entrepreneurship side of fashion where you can make your own, you can make do with what you have and then make it so much more than it is because you're able to expand on that business in so many ways. I mean, between Instagram and TikTok and the internet itself, there's so many new opportunities every year, it feels like. So I think truly taking the time to write out a 1, 3, and 5-year plan for yourself professionally is a great kind of working tool. It's almost like when you're coming up with those New Year's resolutions, like, hey, this year in my career, I want to achieve X, Y, and Z. 3 years out from now, I want to be at this level and also achieving X, Y, and Z. When I started doing this, that's when I was able to transition from Polo Ralph Lauren and move over to Armani Exchange. And that's when I started to really travel. Before Polo, I would go to Mexico and LA because that's where we had factories that did denim, and I got to work in those factories. Once I really kind of said, hey, I want to see more of the mills. I want to see more of the trade shows. I want to see more of the different factories that are overseas that really specialize in denim, separate from our domestic US ones. And I started writing down, and it's almost like having a vision board for your career. I started writing down these plans for myself, and it was in my 3-year bucket. And funny enough, within 2 years, once I had transitioned from Polo to our AX, I was starting to do 2 times a year traveling to India, China, Hong Kong, and France to start. You start in France and you go to the fabric shows, and then you transition out and go to India, Hong Kong, and China because that's where some of our vendors were. And then I would always have to go over to LA because we also still had a vendor there in the domestic US. And being able to travel and see those factories, see the mills, see the different, how the different setups that existed in each of the countries, and also how each country was kind of combating either, child worker laws, making sure that there was education plans in place for all of their workers, making sure there was resources in place for female workers, making sure there were different environmental and water protection sanctions in place for their different realms, because denim does do a lot of damage to the earth. It did, and now we're getting better, but I digress. But that being said, putting that down in paper really allowed me to kind of figure out what do I want to do next and how do I really want to guide and drive my career. So separate from you doing that at work because you have your, your annual review or your 6-month review, this was you saying to yourself professionally, hey, I want to achieve A, B, C, D, E, F, G, maybe through Z, and just having a plan for it. So I really found that 1-3-5 really has helped me to kind of grow and develop myself. But then it also allowed me things like I never thought I would teach, but then I was invited by a former colleague of mine to teach at Kent State. And I had that down a few years ago, and then it came to fruition back in 2019 and again in 2021, where I was brought in to teach a class because it was, again, just having that knowledge and wanting to share with individuals. It afforded me, and having that on my kind of career to-do list, it was something I kept top of mind, and it allowed me to kind of bring it back to life where I hadn't thought about it for a while, but I looked back at one of my old books and it was right there, and then it just came to fruition. So there's something about writing these things down, bring them to, we all have experienced that, I'm sure, where if you write things down or you talk to or you put it into the universe or you put it out there into the world, it comes back to you. When to take the leap. So this is the conversation about transition. And I say conversation because it's a difficult one to have. If you are in a healthy, stable, and, financially stable position, where in this day and age, after COVID, I had experienced some job insecurity myself. I had actually been let go of a position at one point and had to figure out what to do next. And that's why I transitioned into this new position. But that being said, you have to figure out when to take the leap for yourself, because our industry is one where it is very volatile, and it's never kind of a good time to leave because there's either going to be a super high peak or a super low valley or things of that nature. But there's something to be said about putting yourself in a position to leap when necessary or when you want to, or if an opportunity presents itself. And that's not only being financially sound, but professionally sound and having those things in place. And just being able to kind of have your plan in place for better understanding when is it okay to leap? When is it okay to take that professional risk and kind of move on from something that's secure and stable and that I am able to thrive on to kind of move or transition into something else that I have always wanted to do? So being financially sound and financially stable is, I think, a concern for many of us, and something that kind of doesn't drive all of our decisions, but definitely helps to guide them. That also being said, you want to make sure that the leap is worth it in terms of professional, personal, and just all around gain. If you're taking a leap just to take one, is that really worth it? Is there going to be any true benefit for it? There's something to be said about really just seeing the world and doing what you want to do and kind of always being happy. So that's also something that should guide your leap. But that being said, you want to make sure that it will not put you in a predicament where you can either not come back from the leap, or it puts you in a dire straits in whatever way that means for yourself. So I think we all kind of know it goes without saying, to take a leap is to take a risk. But that being said, sometimes it's so worth it. And I will share with you, I took a leap years ago when I was at a very stable position and in a very comfortable position, actually making the most money I'd ever made in my career. And my father became ill. And it was a choice that I had to make to say, am I going to just take some time to be with him and just take that time to help my mother out and help them care for each other? But then also professionally, it was starting to get a little taxing and tiring because it had been that grind of, for years, working early mornings into late nights, traveling all the time, things of that nature. So I took an unconventional leap where I just stepped back for a minute and started consulting. And it allowed me to juggle a lot of personal responsibilities and also personal needs, but then also just gave me clarity in terms of where do I want to go next and what did I need to do. And the bit of financial insecurity for a moment was short enough that I had stability, I had savings in place, and I also had a support system in place where I knew, okay, I can take this leap, I can make this change for myself, I can consult, and I ended up consulting for about 5 years, help take care of my father while he was ill, and then also just maintain my lifestyle as is, And it was scary as all. It was scary. It was scary as all get out, but it was well worth it because it was genuinely what I needed to do to also kind of bring myself to the next level in my career, because consulting afforded me the ability to help out these smaller brands really kind of bring themselves from startups to established. And that was kind of some of the best work I had ever done, but it also gave me the flexibility to be there for my family. So you when you want to take the leap, it's just really kind of figuring out and putting on paper all the things that you need to kind of the pros and cons list of, should I do this? Can I do this? Or even if you don't have that freedom to really kind of say, should I, could I, would I, but knowing like, if I take this leap, it's going to be well worth it. And sometimes you need to for yourself. It's good professional risk. And then this is similar to when to bet on yourself. A lot of entrepreneurs nowadays, they're trying to figure out, is this going to, take me either to the next level, or am I going to be comfortable and successful enough? And there's just, you got to listen to your gut, and you have to be comfortable with betting on yourself. Have certain things in place so you understand that you have a level of security, but there's nothing better than that feeling of taking a bet on yourself and making it work and understanding I needed to do that. And I think Carla and I had a couple of conversations in preparation for this chat today where we just realized like there are just moments in life where you just have to bet on yourself. And it's not risk at all, but it's knowing like this is well worth it. And this is something I need to do. I have to do, because if I don't, I'll regret it for my life. So this is all about having those honest conversations, having those conversations with individuals that you trust and you respect their opinion, or you look for their opinion at times, and just really being in the know about what you want to do with yourself, and just understanding in our industry, there's so much opportunity and there's so many paths to take. You really just have to take a moment to write down or even think about critically what you want to do and understand that there is a way to get there. It's just, how are you going to do the dance? And listen, I've taken some pitfalls. 16 years in and I got laid off, and it was the craziest thing ever, but it made me go, oh, it was a reality check like none other. And it just made me kind of work a little bit harder to get myself back into a place where I wanted to be. So that being said, bet on yourself, understand that fashion has had fashion leans on our community a lot. And we ultimately build and create the culture that is oftentimes commodified and commercialized. And that being said, you have to understand there is a place for all of us there, but there's always going to be a little bit of a fight. So bet on yourself to understand you're going to make it happen. It's just going to be sometimes a rocky road. It might be a little bit smooth. It might be a blend of both. I've definitely experienced a little bit of everything, and you can make the best of it if you just are pragmatic and plan. And I cannot stress that enough. Some of it will be luck, but a lot of it is going to be strategy and planning.
Awesome.
Yeah. So thank you all for your time. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you don't see my behind the scenes.
I have one question. Someone is asking, Dale is asking, the classes that you currently teach at Kent, what are those courses?
So one was the senior capstone. So it's essentially for senior fashion students that come to New York for their senior year, their semester abroad, essentially. I teach them a capstone course. So it's kind of an introduction to networking, meeting other individuals, how to network within our fashion industry, and then also learning more about the New York City garment district. So I take them on tours of factories I've worked with, fabric stores I like to work with, things of that nature. So it's kind of just like an intro to fashion and an intro to like what happens after. And that's where I kind of also had to teach students about budgeting, salaries, things of that nature. So much of what we talked about today, I walk them through.
Awesome.
In a longer stretch.
Well, you know what? I know time because you're on vacation, so letting you go. This is so needed.
Yes.
So thank you for Thank you for doing it, especially on vacation.
Yeah, it's no worries.
When we get off of this,
I had to share.
Back And I'm gonna be like, Nicole, can we do this again next year?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. And I'll do it during the workday, so I get a little break from work. I'll always find a way. I'll always find. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
No,
but
but
yeah,
yeah,
this has been
I
great.
would be. I'd be thrilled to have me back. And thank you all. I know I talk sometimes fast, and I know I talk a lot. I know there's a lot of words in there sometimes. I know that's why we're cool. But that being said, if anybody thinks of anything, please just email or email Carla or email the website, and I'll just hop on. I can even do a Q&A at one point if anybody wants to, where it's a live Q&A and we can just banter back and forth. But I hope this is helpful. The 2 websites I mentioned on there, please just take away and just dig around and see, like, hey, does my salary make sense for the position I'm in now? Because that's one thing I figured out. Mine did not years ago. So I got my bump up when I transitioned. And that's the other thing. Moving jobs in our industry is not a bad thing.
No.
After years, though, it's not bad. It's kind of understood and it's kind of the norm. It's kind of where it's how you make more money in fashion.
Yeah. Thank you so much,
Thank
Nicole.
you guys.
And
Take
I'm just
care.
going to piggyback on what you said on that 135 plan. I'm going to talk to everybody about creating a plan. So have a great weekend, Nicole.
Awesome. Take care and everybody be well. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, everybody. That was an incredible deep dive. So now I'm going to talk to you about creating a career plan. This is something that I'm going to give you 8 steps. This is something that has worked for me. Let me plug up my computer just to make sure I'm good. This is something that has helped me. We're going to do this in about 10 to 15 minutes, and then we'll transition to the 1 o'clock series. I just heard from Lena, bless her heart. Looking forward to talking to her. One of the first things you want to do, number 1, is you want to figure out where you're talented. I tell everybody we have a free gifts assessment test on the Career Day page. That is blackfashioncareerday.org. It's a free assessment. You can go in and I'll say confirm, things that you already know about yourself. Those innate abilities that you were given at birth, before you were born, really in your mother's womb. This test is not a test, it's an assessment. It is dead on. It will tell you about your gifts and your talents, your abilities you can develop. But that's the first thing you want to do. You want to look at yourself and embrace those talents you have. Once you do that, I encourage you to talk to other people about the talents that you have. If you're a career changer and you have previous reviews, take out your job reviews and look at those reviews and see what is across the board, those dominant things that have been said positively about you, as well as what I say, friends or family, those things that you've been complimented on. The second step is you want to look at your desired career. What do you want to be? Do you want to be a fashion designer, fashion buyer? What do you want to be and why? Once you figure out what you want to be, and really figuring out what you want to be should go back to those gifts and those talents that you have within yourself, because that's how you're going to soar. Those are those things that will put you in position to soar in that desired opportunity. If it's for you, sometimes the desired opportunity isn't necessarily for you. Perfect example. This is a good example. I majored in accounting. My Bachelor of Science is in accounting. I didn't want to work in accounting all day, but I'm thankful I took that course because I definitely, running this nonprofit, use those accounting skills. So even if you started out in a career and you decide to switch majors or a career, that's those skills that you've obtained in that major or in that career leading up to that point will be beneficial down the road to you. So then you want to look at, this is still number 2, looking at the career that you desire. You want to look at the job description for that career. We've heard a lot about careers this week and what it takes and what the role requires. I tell you to take those notes. Those of you who bought the replays, go back into last year's replays, this year's replays, and listen to those skills that are required, the hours that are required. Write all of those things down. And I'm going to share a form with you in just a second, but write all of those things down. Then what you want to do is number 3. You want to assess where you are based upon the skills that you have, the talents and the gifts that you have, the skills that are required for the position that you want to step into. You want to look at what do you have and at what proficiency level you are at currently. If you want to be a fashion designer and it requires that you know how to, I'm just using an example, you know how to draw. What proficiency level are you at? Do you know how to draw? I'm just using that as an example. Negotiation. We heard about the buying and the merchandising aspects, being able to negotiate. That is a definite skill that is required in that role. How then assess yourself? How well are you at negotiating? Okay, now based upon that assessment, number 4, this is where you're going to create your plan. You've looked at what talents you have. Look at the abilities too. Look at the gifts, the talents, and then the abilities, because abilities you can develop. You're going to look at the job description for the role that you want or that you're called to. Then you're going to, and number 3, you're going to assess the proficiency level that you are currently at. And then number 4, that's where you're going to create your plan for developing those skills or heightening those skills to the point that you need to be at to get to the role that you want to be in. This page right here is, this page can be found in the event play guide. You know, at the top, you're putting the desired career. On the left, you're putting what is your skill set? What are the proficiency levels? That's what I've talked about in step number 3. On number 1, on the right, it says what skill set proficiency levels are required. That's what I talked about in step number 2. At the bottom, yeah, this is something else. I'm going to talk about number 4 again, which is creating the plan based upon the top 2 segments there of where you are, where you want to be, and how you can develop those skills. So in number 5, that's the bottom section. You're going to start talking to people. You're going to start observing people. You're going to start listening to people, which hopefully you did this week. You're going to start looking at events and organizations and searching out things online where you can go and learn and develop these skills. You're going to look at number 1, you're going to look at the books and the magazine and other publications that you should be reading to develop these skills. And then at the bottom, other steps that you can take. There are lots of other steps you can take, like getting the mentor, getting an apprenticeship, working a part-time job, those type things. Those are the things that you want to do to create your plan and put timelines with it. A year, like she said, that 1-3-5, start out with a year. It takes about 6 months to develop something, develop a skill and make change and to see change. So you want to put down where you are, and then 6 months later, you want to look at how far, what have you done? What has worked? What hasn't worked? And this is actually number 6, where you're evaluating yourself. You want to look at what worked, what hasn't worked, what you really like. Did you like reading the books? That might be your way of learning. Did you like watching videos? That might be your way of learning. So that is what you want to do. Those are those 6 steps. 1, the gifts assessment. 2, the desired career. 3, assessing yourself using this chart. Again, this is in the event playbook on the website, blackfashioncareerday.org. You can download it. 4, creating that plan, going to the bottom. And then number 5, putting that plan in action. Number 6, evaluating that plan every 6 months. Now, after that, then you want to go into number 7. You want to really, say at that year mark, you want to really start diving in. You want to look at some of the interviews you've participated in. You want to look at the results from those interviews. True story, one of the best things that I ever did, I took on an interview in corporate America. I knew I wanted to excel to management in corporate. Took an interview, didn't get the job. Bold enough to go back to the hiring manager who interviewed me and ask her, what could I have done better? What did I do well on the interview? What could I have done better on the interview? And she told me, best thing ever. Based upon what she told me, that goes back to who you're going to talk to. Based upon what she told me, this is when I learned how to create a career plan. I put this in action, and the next interview that I took in corporate America was for a management position, and I got it. So I'm speaking to you from personal experience, okay? Put this plan in action. And then number 8, you want to repeat this over and over and over, and you want to continue and you want to persevere. So those are my 8 steps for you. I know that there's a delay. If there's any questions, go ahead and I should have said that earlier, but go ahead and put them into the chat. I'm going to put this up as we're going to finish in a minute so I can transition over to the webinar with Lena. But again, you can download this. Do want to remind you that career assessment, it's not really a career assessment, but it will help you determine the right path for your career. That gifts and talents assessment is on the website. Is Black Fashion. I'll put that in the chat where it is. I think you all know, but you never know. That is the page that you can go to download this plan, download this page out of the career, out of the event playbook, excuse me. But again, that gifts assessment, it's free. The desired career, looking at the job description, assessing yourself, figuring out what skills you need to obtain to get to where you need to be to get to that desired, to secure that desired career. Using that to create your plan, putting that plan in action, going for it. Then number 6, evaluating yourself over and over. Then number 7, reviewing yourself again. That's like that year mark. The interviews, what could be better. Number 8, just continue and persevere and repeat the plan. I hope this has been beneficial to someone. This session it will be live. It is in the event replays, but it's an open session, so it will actually go public as well. So share it with your friends. So it is 12:41. I'll wait like 1 or 2 minutes. If there's any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I hope this has really been an empowering week for you. It's definitely been a beneficial week for me. And it's always a challenge when you feel like you're talking to yourself. Now, I don't know how the radio hosts do. Oh, well, they have like 2 or 3 people in there with them. So I don't see any questions. If something comes through when I shut down, I'll definitely go in and answer it on the chain so you can see it there. I am looking forward to seeing each of you at 1 o'clock. And happy career week. Have a great week. Talk to you soon.